Hello and welcome to Suzanne's Kitchen. Today I'm going to prepare a spinach strudel with a traditional strudel pastry. And obviously the first thing that I have to do is to prepare the strudel pastry. What I've got here is 300 grams of plain organic flour, and most important thing, we do this on a work surface which needs to be very clean. So I just tip the flour out, make a little bit of a well. In this I've just put a pinch of salt. I've got about 30 grams of oil, just some neutral oil, like grapeseed oil in this case. And I've got about 150 ml of lukewarm water. And I slowly mix the ingredients. It's a bit of a mess to start with, but it will come together. Depending on the flour, the water can be a bit more or less, so I just use a bit 150 ml, and if you need some more, just add some more. If it is too much, just add a little bit more flour. You can also make the pastry in a food processor. Just pulse it a little bit and until it comes together, and then you tip it out on the surface and knead it a little bit. But I like to do it on the work surface because then I can feel the pastry and I know how much more water or flour it will need. I will have to knead this for about 5 minutes until it's nice and smooth and silky. So as you can see, in the meantime, the dough has come together quite well and it's not that sticky anymore. It is quite smooth. And we just form a ball and put this one in a little bowl which I sprayed with some oil so it doesn't stick. So that's the pastry. Put it in here. I will cover it with a cloth so that it doesn't dry out, and I leave this to rest for about half an hour on a warm spot. In the meantime, I have prepared my workbench with a tablecloth, and I've put quite a bit of flour on it so that the pastry doesn't stick on it. And first thing is I have to roll out the pastry. Just use any old kind of tablecloth, because if you use it a few times for making strudel, it might get a few cuts into it, so don't use your best one. And we just try to get a rectangular shape of the pastry before we start stretching it with our hands. A bit more flour, we don't want it to stick to the tablecloth. You can already see it's very elastic, and that's what we are after. Before you start stretching the dough with your hands, just make sure you don't have big rings on your fingers, or I took off my watch because you don't want to get holes into the pastry. And then you just use the back of your hands, like this, and stretch the pastry. Start in the middle, towards the outside, and you have to work around a little bit. Don't be afraid if you get a few holes. We cut that off. You can see it already gets translucent. Now my grandmother always said the pastry is right if you can, it's so thin that you can read the newspaper through. We don't really have to try that, but it's just a good sign that the pastry is nice and thin. Now we can cut the pastry into shape. I just want to get rid of the thicker parts on the side. So just cut those off. Now unfortunately you cannot put the dough together and stretch it again, it only works one time. Next thing I do is sprinkle quite a bit of butter onto the pastry. And we have to work quite fast because the pastry is so thin that it tends to dry out fairly easily. Okay, that looks good. Now our filling ingredients. Obviously, because it's a spinach strudel, we've got plenty of spinach. I've only sauteed the spinach in a little bit of butter and let it wilt down. I've got about 300 grams of spinach. We also need some dry breadcrumbs. I've sauteed them with some butter in a pan as well, and that's going to be our first layer of the filling. Just spread it on the pastry. Onto the lower third closest to you. Just make it nice and even. Second layer is the spinach. Now I've put some breadcrumbs there because the spinach tends to lose a little bit of liquid. I've drained it after wilting it down in the pan, but it's still fairly wet, and the breadcrumbs prevent the liquid to go through the pastry. I've also got some mushrooms and onion. I sauteed them onions in a pan, added a little bit of garlic and some shiitake mushrooms, but you can use button mushrooms as well, of course. So we put it on top of the spinach. Next ingredients is cheese. I've got a mixture of 2 cheeses. You can basically use whatever you feel like. I've got some Gruyere cheese, which gives it a nice nutty flavor. And I've cut about 100 grams of Gruyere cheese in smallish cubes. And I've also got about 100 grams of feta cheese, and I've used sheep feta cheese because it has a nice tart and salty flavor to it, which is a nice combination with the nutty flavor of the Gruyere cheese. And my last ingredient is a mixture of quark. Now quark is, or Topfen as we say in Austria, is a milk product, and it's a little bit similar to ricotta cheese, but it's used specifically in the Austrian and southern German cooking. It's a little bit more smooth than ricotta, and you can use it in savory or sweet dishes. So I've mixed about 50 grams of Topfen with about 150 grams of sour cream. I added 2 egg yolks and seasoned the whole with salt, pepper, paprika and a little bit of nutmeg. And I just put it over the whole mixture. Okay, now the fun part. We have to roll up the strudel. So I start from the side closest to me, and I just try to pull the pastry a little bit over the filling. And then we just roll it really tight with the help of our tablecloth. And then we cut the ends off. And I take a baking tray and I've put some baking paper on that, and now I just have to roll the strudel, or I can even lift it because it's not too sensible. Just get underneath it and lift it onto the baking tray. Get it back into shape and just tuck the ends that I've cut off a little bit underneath. Okay, and there we've got a nice spinach strudel. Last thing before I put it in the oven is I brush it with melted butter so it doesn't dry out. And I have preheated my oven to about 180 degrees. Just regular temperature, no fan forced oven, otherwise it would dry out. And it's ready to go into the oven for about 35 to 40 minutes until it's golden brown. While our strudel is in the oven, I make a little dip or sauce which goes really well with it. What I need is a cup of Greek yogurt, unsweetened. And I put that in a food processor. To this I add about a cup and a half of fresh mint leaves. I'm lucky I've got them in my garden. So they're really nice and fresh and very aromatic. I add about 2 tablespoons of avocado oil. You can use olive oil as well, but I just really like the nice taste of avocado oil, and it's very healthy for you too. I've got 100 grams of feta cheese, and I just crumble that into the processor. Juice of lemon. And season with salt and pepper. Just season it a little bit before you blitz it together, and then taste it and season it again. It's already salty enough because of the feta cheese in it as well. Nice lemony taste and the mint, but I think it needs a little bit more pepper. So I serve this with the spinach strudel, and any leftovers you can use as a dip for vegetables. Just cut some carrots or radishes, celery, and dip them into it. Or you can also put it on some piece of black bread, dark bread, sourdough bread, and just eat it as it is for lunch. Have another taste. Yeah, that's ready to go. I put it in a nice bowl and serve it with my spinach strudel. After 40 minutes in the oven, our spinach strudel is ready. Nice golden color. Okay, I just cut a nice piece. And to serve my spinach strudel, I just add a little bit of the yogurt and mint sauce on the side. And here we go. Spinach strudel with mint yogurt sauce. If you like this recipe, check it out on my website prostmahlzeit.co.nz. Thank you and see you next time.